Well, hello, Christown sisters. How are you doing? Um, we are here to present to you a little talk on homeschooling and just more the idea of options for schooling. This crazy time that we're in, there's just a lot of uncertainty about what is coming. First, we are going to have school, then we're not going to have school, and then it gets pushed back. And so I just think there's a lot of people wondering, what am I going to do? And so I just thought it'd be appropriate to just share some thoughts with you. I've invited Lisa Werner to join us and Rachel Dahl. They're both homeschool moms with very different stories, but I want you to know that they are reluctant homeschool moms. So that's probably how most of you are feeling right now. So I think that you will gain some wisdom and some thoughts from them. I want you to know that, even though this time is hard, God is in control. He has he has bigger plans than we can see, and there's a lot of opportunity in this time. We've really been forced to slow down. I think it's 4.5 months now, and for those of you who are moms and stuck in your home, bless your heart. I know this is a hard time. So we hope that this time will just encourage you and give you some things to think about. We're not trying to convince anybody one way or the other. I just thought it was important to kind of to share some things. Hopefully in this slowdown, you've been really watching your family and your children, and you've seen some things maybe that you had missed. We have been so busy, and we have so many opportunities, and we're on the go. So maybe you've noticed some things about your kids. Maybe you've noticed some strengths. Maybe you've noticed some weaknesses. Maybe some interests you didn't know about, or some struggles or fears. Excuse me, my voice is out of practice. But, that's a blessing to be able to see those things and not to be so busy that they just go flying by you. And as parents, as moms and dads, our job is to train up our children in the way they should go, as it says in Proverbs 6. I wanted to turn to Deuteronomy 6 real quick. Excuse me. In Deuteronomy 6, there's just a really powerful command for parents to train up their children to love the Lord their God with all their heart and with all their mind and with all their soul, and to teach that to their children. I'm just going to read one verse here for you. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These commands that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. So hopefully during this time, you've had some extra time to share your faith with your children and to train them. There are so many areas that we neglect when we're too busy. But I thought this was really interesting. In verse 20, starting in verse 20, it says, in the future, when your son asks you, what is the meaning of the stipulations, decrees, and laws the Lord our God has commanded you? Then you are to tell them. You're to tell them the history of my relationship with you, what I've done in your family, what I've done in your country, what I've done in your home. So that's a responsibility, is to teach our children a biblical worldview. And so whatever it takes for us to accomplish that in our families, that's what we need to determine. That might be public school. So for some, that works wonderful. For some, it might be homeschool. That works best. And some, it's kind of a hybrid. But the thing that's really kind of gotten to me this last couple months is people who've never homeschooled before, and they find themselves before 6 hours of a Zoom video, and then they're saying, I'm homeschooling. But it's different for everybody. That is not homeschooling. Homeschoolers their life looks different. They're not out and about to museums and libraries and support groups and all the wonderful things that they do. And then for public school, it's very different, of course, on the Zoom. But I myself, I homeschooled for 14 years. And the most frustrated that I ever was, or anybody ever saw, was when they tried to bring that public school format into the home. So to think that you can take a 6-hour class and put a kid in front of a computer on Zoom and call that school, that's not good for anybody. And your whole life is taken over by that. So I wanted to just kind of talk through that. You know, when you're homeschooling, it's a tutorial setting, so you might have 2 or 3 kids, or 4 or 5 or 9, whatever you have, and it's more of a tutorial setting. The older ones can teach the youngers in that setting, but a classroom is more about classroom management and teaching all different levels of one subject. So it's just a whole different setting. So I wanted to introduce to you, we'll start with Rachel Dahl. And Rachel, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your family, and just tell us how you came to homeschool.
Okay, I am Rachel. We are a military family currently stationed in Dayton, Ohio. My kids have gone to school. They loved school. The talent shows, the science fairs, international nights, all the activities. It was a good experience for us. When we moved to Dayton, my husband got a much different type of job, a much more predictable schedule, and we just didn't want to have to abide by this public schools schedule of when we can take vacation, when we do and don't do homework. We just really wanted to make up some family time and really take advantage of the extra time we would have with my husband and as a family. So we decided we would homeschool for the 3 years that we were in Dayton. So that's.
Okay, let's go ahead and I'll ask you a couple more questions, and then we'll give Lisa a turn. So Rachel, when you started, what were your biggest concerns?
Definitely, I was concerned about finding community and finding peers for my kids. The group interaction, being able to do group projects in class, group presentations, just the interaction with a community. And so when I first thought about homeschooling, one of the first things I did was I did a Google search in the Dayton area, and I found that homeschooling came up everywhere. Every library has a program, every museum has a program, every business offers something for the homeschool community. That's here in Dayton. I know that's not nationwide, but I thought, okay, we should be able to find a community. And then the private school that we live near offers a hybrid type program. So every Friday my kids go to the school for extracurricular things. My older son does take his science and language arts there. Again, those are both subjects that I love and we had enjoyed doing together, but it gives him the opportunity to do group projects, interact with other teachers, sit in a classroom, other skills that I thought were still important for him to have. So that has given us some community. They see the same kids every week, and they enjoy that. So,
thank you. And Lisa, how about your family? How did you come to homeschool?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa. We're going on 20 years of marriage, and back 11 years ago, our oldest had completed 2nd grade through the public schools, and she was doing really well. She really liked school. But to back up a little bit more, my husband had always wanted to homeschool from the time our oldest was born and a baby. And I'm a previous public school high school English teacher, and I had exposure with homeschoolers, very limited, only about 3 families really over my 11 years of teaching. But the 3 experiences were really memorable and had left a negative impression for me about homeschooling. And so when he suggested that, she's 17 now. So when he suggested that probably about 15 years ago, I was appalled. I was like, why would we homeschool? Why would we do that to our kids? I want them to be normal. I want them to be academically strong. And I'm ashamed to say I didn't even pray about it. I just was very resistant to the idea. And so then we went forward, and she liked school and everything was going well. But during her 2nd grade year, I started to notice a couple of things. The one that was most concerning to me is she seemed to not hear our opinions and our values as much as she used to at a younger age. It seemed as if her peers and her teachers were starting to kind of trump what we were sharing and saying and how we were directing her. And that got me real concerned. And then I could tell she was struggling in math. So, and it's not that it was a very good school, very good district, but a very large class. So I was starting to think I think it was about 36 kids that year. So all that led me to pray. And I told my husband, Mark, that I asked him if we pray together, and probably, I mean, right away, I felt this impression that we should consider homeschooling from the Lord. And I shared that with Mark. And of course, he wasn't surprised at all, because he'd always all along felt like that would be an excellent option for our kids. So after a few more days of praying, I knew that we needed to try it. I knew that I needed to obey the Lord and follow him in this and just see. I was very scared. I was concerned that, well, kind of like Rachel said, our daughter loved school. She loved the group setting. She loved all the friends and interaction. So I was very concerned that I could meet all of her needs at home. And of course, I was concerned academically, how am I going to do this? Because when we started homeschooling, we had a 3rd grader and a 4-year-old and about an 8-month-old. So I was overwhelmed at the idea of how am I going to manage my family and be a mother on top, and as well as teach and maintain our home. So very concerned about how I would do all that.
So there are lots of challenges. It's not an easy thing, but I think part of it is getting out of that public school mindset, because part of homeschooling is that you just do life together, and there's a lot of life skills are learned, everything from the responsibility of chores and maybe pets and helping siblings, just all that sort of thing. We consider all those things learning, though there are academic times. So Lisa, how many hours do you spend a day homeschooling?
Well, we typically, my oldest is in 11th grade this year, so she kind of goes with her own schedule, and she plays athletics at a local private school. So that dictates her schedule a bit, but she's 90% independent. Her day is full, probably a 7-hour day as you would in high school. Now with my 5th grader and my 8th grader this year, we will go anywhere from 5 to 6 hours a day, starting around 8:30. We take a nice long lunch break and usually finish up around 2 or 2:30.
And Rachel, what about you?
Pretty similar. I have this year there'll be 6th and 3rd grade, and we start about 9 and go till 2:30. And that doesn't mean no breaks or no snacks or no, obviously, but that's about, I try not to make any appointments or plans within that time frame. We get our work done, and then after 2:30.
And then you had written in our questions I had sent you, I guess I should tell people too, Rachel is my daughter. So her school kids are my grandchildren. They're just brilliant, I have to tell you. But I'm sure yours are too, Lisa.
Well, we think so.
She's a good friend, but I picked these two ladies because I know they have a lot of wisdom. Rachel, I know for you, it's been you just commented about how the 2nd year was so much different than the 1st. Would you kind of talk to that?
So the 1st year was the hardest, definitely, absolutely. But I don't say that to scare anyone that's looking to do that this year. Just know that it is challenging. I mean, I really believe my oldest son went through like a withdrawals. I mean, he missed the interaction and the activity so much. But he did well. It wasn't a major fight, but I could just really tell we had just moved to a new city. We didn't know people, and now I'm homeschooling him, so it was challenging. We arrived in town, we found this school, I walked in and handed them my check. So along with Friday electives, they also have a homeschool library, and I really went in and said, these are the grades of my 2 boys. I'll take whatever you have left on the shelves. I start next week. And so, I didn't know anything about curriculum. It was okay, but we definitely made changes the next year. Different curriculum, different, things to fit our family better, to fit my kids better. So the 1st year was challenging, but the thing that I did that helped me the most was just about every quarter, whether I gave the kids a day off or I took a Saturday and just looked back over what we've done. What was I going to do the next quarter? What worked, what didn't? Do we need to start 30 minutes later to make the day go better? What can I do to keep trying this, so.
Yeah, I think,
And the second,
go ahead.
and the second felt like a breeze. I was just like, so much better.
I wanted to just speak to the thought about Gabriel missing his class. A lot of times it depends on what the kids are coming from. Gabriel had a very small kind of private school setting because it was an international school. Lisa's talking about a child coming from 36 kids in her class, but she still missed it, But what would you tell somebody who said that their kids didn't want to? Is it more about what's right for your family, or what the kid wants? Or is it, did Gabe say, I don't want to do this?
No, I mean, he definitely just said he missed friends. He just wanted to move back to our old town, his old school. He understood when we told him why we're homeschooling and how we've been able to use our schedule in rhythm with Wayne's work schedule. I mean, he has loved a lot of those things. And I did, when you sent me questions for today's interview, I did sit down with the boys and ask them, so what do you think? How have I been doing?
How are you doing?
And they definitely said that the flexibility of the schedule is great. The refrigerator is great. I have 2 boys. That's what they said.
And I think too, when you're talking about in this COVID experience, even if you were decide to just maybe pull out from your school, you're just thinking, I'll just do this for the year. I mean, think about the health of your children being in front of the Zoom, in front of this computer for hours at a day, no interaction, no one-on-one. I mean, you would have to do that with them, of course. And then the exercise thing, being able to get outside, and they need to be able to see far. They need to get off of this screen time. And you guys get out and do a lot of hiking. I know Lisa and her family, Lisa posts on Facebook quite a bit about the things that they're doing. Don't you guys have unicycles or something crazy?
Yes. My husband learned to unicycle when he was like around 10. And so he's taught all 3 of our kids to unicycle. And yeah, we've had time to do things like that and to do hikes and camping. And, we follow a more traditional school calendar though, because of my kids being involved in sports. So we don't maximize the flexibility as much as other homeschool families, I think, because of that. But still, it is so amazing to be able to have that control over your schedule. That is one of the greatest benefits.
It is. And Rachel, you had a good point about that too. When Rachel was young, the reason I started homeschooling is because we had moved out to the country. And for Rachel to go to school as a kindergartner she would have had to get on the bus in the dark. And I was like, I'm not doing that. So we started and we enjoyed it. So we kept on. We have 6 children. So all of them had at least 6 years, some of them 8 in our homeschool. But the flexibility of being able to take off when their dad was available when he was working a lot of hours was a biggie. But Rachel, you had a really good point about being too different in your scheduling.
We do like to keep on a school schedule, summer break, spring break, fall break. But my husband is an instructor on an Air Force base. And so it very much depends on when he's teaching. Depends, when he can take our fall break. So if it doesn't match the city district, that's okay. But we take our summers off. I know a lady that does 3 weeks of schooling and 1 week off, and she does that year round. And that works really well for them. But I feel they don't seem to be able to take advantage of get-togethers with other people. Like she has a week off when everyone else is doing school. When other people have off, it's just their own family thing, and that works for them. And you need to do what works for your family. But I do try to keep us flexible with the kids in the neighborhood and people at church and in our community, that we're not just on a polar opposite schedule. So.
Yeah, I think it's important too for women and for the husband and the wife to agree on this pursuit, because it is life-changing, and it's a different level of support that mom needs, maybe dad could take on a subject, or maybe, just get out and do something with them, or whatever his level of involvement, what he's available to help with. But mom can't carry it all. You can't do all the cleaning, all the cooking, all the scheduling, all the planning, all the curriculum without wearing yourself out. So if you have a spouse, that it's important that you and your spouse agree and kind of decide what's this going to look like. And like Rachel said, you can evaluate every quarter. Hey, is this working? And kind of go from there. So Rachel, what do you think your biggest challenge is at this point?
For the coming year?
Just whatever. I mean, just like, maybe for the coming year.
Just finding opportunities for community, and now with COVID-19 and people having varying positions on that, a lot of the things that we have done in the past 2 years will not be available at least this next semester, maybe the whole year. Different museums or programs. So just looking for ways to keep the kids active and challenged and with purpose. I don't really just want them inside sitting with their own things, their own Legos, their own books all the time, waiting for things to open up. So I've been trying to challenge them a lot, how to think of other people, things they can do for other people, even amid the restrictions we're under right now. Writing letters to grandparents, preparing a meal for a neighbor. So just trying to keep them really engaged in a time that feels unengaging.
Yeah, I think it could kind of dissolve into kind of a selfish time where we forget to reach out, and there are so many people so alone, and nobody likes to feel forgotten. So and that's really a good point, Rachel. And Lisa, for you, what's your biggest challenge?
Well, Rachel, I think the community our year is going to be very, very different, just as it was last spring too, because of COVID. We had a wonderful small homeschool support group that we were a part of for 8.5 years, and that was a lifeline. I don't think we could have survived homeschooling with all those friends and the support I gained through those moms and through the great friendships my kids made. But then last year we decided that group kind of has just sort of gone away as kids have gotten older. And so we moved to a bigger co-op here in the Valley called Branches, and it has classes that you register for. And it's just a really big and fun co-op. My kids have absolutely loved it. So we were able to do last fall, and it was a huge hit. We swore we'll always be in Branches. And then of course, in March, everything got canceled. And now we're looking at a fall where it's not going to happen for my specific branch of Branches. So like Rachel said, just having community, getting the kids out and other focused, and just figure out how to manage for them not seeing their friends as much, and helping them to, I pray, grow in their faith with the Lord and in their ability to pray through this time. It's going to be a different year, but it'll be good in its own way.
Yeah, I think we have to be sure to just accept, that our kids are going to be disappointed. It is and we can acknowledge that, but then like you both said, encourage them in other ways to be thankful, to do for others. I know both of you get outside a lot. It's so important to get outside and just let them be kids, because my husband said to me the other day, he said, we had Vietnam War, when I come home from school as a teenager, it was on the news every day, but hey, I could turn the TV off. This is different. The kids can't get away from it. Their whole lives have changed. They can't socialize like they want to. They can't, the library, for heaven's sakes, you can't go to the library or go shopping. Just all those things have changed. And I think it can be very scary for them. So I just think it's an opportunity to really grow closer to the Lord as a family. And Rachel, I think you said you're doing Ephesians this year with the boys.
I am. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And anything special? Just going through the book, or do you have a curriculum? Or
I was just going to try a book study with them this fall. We've done a lot of great books. I actually was thinking Lisa might know a lot of great Bible study type books to do with kids, since she's been homeschooling several more years than I have. But have really enjoyed some of the books we've done, but I just wanted to teach them to just go directly to the word more often. And Ephesians just seemed like a good book for this time. So
Do you have a favorite vote? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no.
You have a quote by Ravi Zacharias that you really like, that you shared with me last. Tell them what that is.
He was just talking about Christianity and converting to Christianity, but he said, what you win people, oh, now you're going to mess me up, called me out. What you win them with is what you win them to. So if young kids, are only hearing about God at church parties or something like that, then when the party's over, then your relationship is over for that time. So just teaching the kids more about their own personal relationship with Christ. And as a military wife, I know I have done this, and I've as we move so much, and I watch the kids get disappointed with each move for different reasons, I really work to remove their disappointment, and this I can't remove.
Yeah.
So it's been really good. We move, and I can get busy helping them meet new people, take them sightseeing, turn a new house into a home. And this, I can't get rid of this, so it's really challenged me as well to just turn towards the kids and show them how to just face the difficult and give it to God. So
yeah, I think that's the way a lot of moms are feeling, and that's what I see as the opportunity here. I think so many times we get so busy, we're not even dealing with our kids. We don't have time to teach them manners. We don't have time to teach them skills or respect. We just run to the next thing and brush it under the rug, but we are really stuck in this, and I think it is an opportunity. Lisa, what do you do for that in that arena for just teaching the Word of God to your kids?
Well, we have used My Father's World. It's a curriculum that we've followed every year, and it's really fit our family well. And so Bible is built into their program. Each year looks different. This year, I'm going to do something a little different and move out of My Father's World for different reasons, just for this year. And we're going to go through the New Testament using something called the Picture Smart Bible. My kids love to draw and are creative, and this is a fun way to kind of hit the main points of each book in either the Old Testament or the New Testament, or even just one book if you want to. And they have a paper in front of them that they're drawing and coloring on. It's all guided, but it's a great way for them to be engaged while we're talking through each book. So that's my plan this year. And because I'm not using our regular curriculum, it's the first time, I was like, oh gosh, okay, what am I going to do for Bible? And it was fun. But My Father's World typically will just have us go through a book like Rachel's doing, a book of the Bible. We read through verse by verse. A lot of memory work has been our past. My kids memorized the whole book of James. That was interesting, but we actually did it. We couldn't recite it now, but it was really fun. And then we've read a lot of biographies. Biographies have been really a powerful way to apply the scriptures to our life and learn about other people who have. So that's probably been one of my favorite parts about My Father's World program, or all the biographies we've read.
That's great. Well, I'm thinking in kind of wrapping up about people who might want to get started, and they start looking at curriculum, and it's like when you go to Hobby Lobby and everybody else has already had the same idea and the shelves are empty. So yeah. I think it's hard, and you can't, I know Rachel's relied a lot on the library, and it's really hard to do that right now. So if people have questions for you, can they email them to me? And then I will field them to you. It's info@christownhome.com. You can email us and I'll get you in touch with one of either Lisa or Rachel. Lisa has made up a resource guide, which will be in the email that's attached to this video. I just really appreciate your time today. I would like you to each finish by telling us your best piece of advice. Rachel, why don't you go first?
Well, I would just say don't. I know it can be scary. I know it looks scary this year, but your school day does not have to emulate the school day your kids had. You do not have a dedicated art space. You do not have a dedicated music space. I have one dining room table. So you just, for your first, even if for your first quarter, your first semester, even if it's for the whole year, just focus on those core subjects. You don't need to have an amazing art folder. You don't need to have a theater production. Just focus on those, and you might find that your kids have a little bit of time to explore some of their own interests, whether it might be art on their own or music on their own, or but there is curriculum for every topic ever. Don't feel like you need all of it to be a successful homeschooler, and it's your first year, so just take it a day at a time.
And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Right? Miss Lisa.
Beautifully said, Rachel. That's all so perfect. So the only thing I would add is just to focus on the Lord. It's very scary, and just the weight of the undertaking, that you're putting in your hands of your kids' education was overwhelming to me. But our path was abruptly changed, not in the same way as COVID, obviously, but this was not my plan. And looking back now, I look back on the fear I had and the anxiety and the worries about all the ways that I may not be able to meet their needs. I can just see God's purpose in changing our path. And COVID is so unexpected, and all this is so strange. But he's so much bigger than that, and he has a purpose for redirecting us. So if you are feeling, sorry about that, if you're feeling led to try something new, I just want to encourage you to have faith in the Lord that he's the one who's directing your path. And it's not about, can I really do this? It's about what the Lord can do through you. What he calls you to, he will equip you to do. 10 years now of homeschooling, I have no doubt at all in that ever again. I pray that if he leads you to do something, he will equip you to do it. So be encouraged in the Lord.
Thank you. And Rachel mentioned one of the gals that she was listening to recently just said, this is a different time. If you need the encouragement of other families, find people who are willing to get together and just make it a really small, intimate group. And as a homeschool mom myself, what I see in each and every one of my children, no matter which way they went, is they're all very, very resourceful. Being able to use the time to delve in farther to what they're interested in and not guide their every moment. I think with, I just keep talking about this busyness thing. The kids don't even have time to be creative or think about, they don't even know what they're interested in because they're signed up for so much stuff just to be kept busy. And they come home at the end of the day and there's nothing left. You know what? Being bored is a good thing, because then you have to find something to do, and you have to, kind of dig in to yourself and what you're interested in. So Rachel, not to brag about you, but no matter where Rachel goes, she just digs in. They've been all over the world. She finds what she needs. And, Lisa, you obviously have, had to be really resourceful to accomplish what you have over the last 10 years. So just encourage you ladies, if you have any desire to homeschool and you have any more questions, you're certainly welcome to email us again at info@christownhome.com. I would also say that if you're a grandma, and there's anything, you have extra time, we shouldn't be sitting around eating bonbons. Life's too short. So if you could be of a help to a neighbor or your grandchildren or whatever, just be a support to the moms that you see. Even if you just stop them in the store and tell them, hey, good job. You're doing a good job being a mom. It's a hard time to be a mom. So, well, thank you, ladies. And I just really appreciate Lisa Varner from Phoenix and Rachel Dahl from Ohio joining us to kind of paint a little bit of a picture for you. Thank you.
Thank you.